Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Well, today I want to talk about the effect of social media. It can be really distracting, can't it? Yesterday, I received a text from a friend of mine, and she said, "Oh, just to let you know that the Pope has died." And then she did a little emoji with tears, and then at the bottom, kiss, kiss, kiss. And I thought, really? Is that where we're at? You don't call me to give me news like this? Perhaps what was even more worrying was the fact that she thought I cared. It was all a little bit surreal. So, we do seem to rely on social media now to give us information. One thing about British culture for new people who come to live here, it can be very, very lonely. British people generally don't socialize well unless they've had a few drinks, which is why the pub remains the number one place to meet people. If you're not really into alcohol, you might consider something a bit less intrusive, like a church or a self-help group, but generally pubs are the place that people talk to one another. Recently, I discovered that my next door neighbor had passed away. She was an old lady. I often helped her in to her apartment because she could barely walk, as well as just generally knocking on the door. Are you okay? Everything fine? Just to try to be neighborly. So you can imagine my disappointment then when she died and nobody told me. So I watched the family gathering at the house. They even cleared the house and emptied it. But yet nobody seemed to be able just to knock on my door to say, by the way, the lady had died. It was very sad. Because I think even though British people can be very private, death is something which has to be shared in a community. It can't be kept alone because it affects everyone. I know that in the past, I also have been a very private person when I was younger, but traveling and living in different countries has helped me to understand the need to allow other people to share information. So I was very disappointed. And I'm telling you all of this because that's the way British culture is now. You can get text messages about things from friends, but nobody really wants to talk. Younger people probably will find living in Britain much easier than older people because you have university colleagues that you can go out with, for example. But something I hear a lot from different students is, how do I make friends with British people? I have a lot of friends from different countries, but I don't seem able to make friends with British people. So it is very difficult, even for us amongst ourselves. We lead very solitary lives, and you really need to be aware of that. Social media, on the other hand, as I described earlier with the message of the Pope's death, can be a little bit strange and a little bit odd. But I certainly would prefer a phone call rather than a text message because I love to talk. If you really love meeting people and chatting with people, you'll find that Americans are much better at socializing than we are. We generally don't do it unless we're in some kind of social setting. There's a number of reasons for this, partly historical, but I've noticed that English people tend to make friends when they're at school and they keep those friends. So those of us who move around, unless you have a very large family, it's very easy to find yourself living somewhere without other people around you. So it's very important that you push yourself into social circles, even if you feel unwelcome. It's not that English people don't want you there. English people are actually very nice and sociable, but it's just something that happens, you know. If you work from home, for example, very common these days, it's much harder to find people to socialize with. So, if you're coming to the UK, just make sure you don't fall into that trap of texting people and get out there and meet people to improve your English.